Okay, last one of the day. Let's talk about forward rates. So let's assume that you've already done the Bootstrap. If you go to the Bootstrap spreadsheet on D2L, click over to the tab that says forward or forward rate or something like that. That's where I have this data from. I just want to walk you through where the numbers come from. So we've already gone through, let's assume, and found the spot rates for 6 months, a year, year and a half, and 2 years. And I'm going to have Z's here rather than spot rate because these will be our semi-annual rates. I want to work, in semi-annual terms. So the 6-month spot rate is 4%. And I'm working with the semi-annual, half of it. The annual spot rate, the 1 year spot rate, so the 1 year spot rate is 5%, and the year and a half spot rate is 6%, and the 2 year spot rate is 3.5%. Okay, so what I want to do is set up a couple of alternatives for you. This is going to be today. This is time 6 months. This is time 1 year. So you have option A. Option A is you invest at the 6-month spot rate, 2%, and then you reinvest 6 months from now at the new 6-month spot rate. But I don't know what that is. I'm going to call it 1F1. Let me give you some terminology. Subscript T, lowercase f, subscript 1 is a T period forward rate that begins in period M. So a T period forward rate that begins in period M. And my choices are option A there. Let's put option B in purple. Option B would say I can invest for the entire year at 2.5%. Right? So which one would you rather do? And what we're trying to find is what's going to make you indifferent between those two. So what will make you indifferent between the two? Say this: you can invest whatever amount of money at 2.5% for 2 periods, or you could invest at 2% for 1 period and then reinvest again at some unknown rate, the forward rate, for 1 period. And I want to find what makes that equal. So if I just go through and do the math, I find that 1F1 is equal to 0.03002, or 3.002%. So in other words, I don't care if I lock in my money now for 2 periods at 2.5%, or if you give me 2% today and we'll just call it 3% 6 months from now. Okay, so let me ask you this: what if you knew, and you don't know? Remember, you don't know this rate. This is I'm trying to predict the future spot rate. And I'm saying if the future spot rate is equal to this, I'm indifferent between the two. What if you knew that the 6-month spot rate 6 months from now would be or will be, and I'll put these all in semi-annual terms, will be 3.5%. If that's true, which option do you choose, option A or option B? Well, 1.025 squared, you could invest in that, that's option B, or you could stay at 1.02 for 6 months and then reinvest at what you know to be the 6-month spot rate 6 months from now. This is going to be bigger, so you would choose to do that. Okay, so let's work through another example. We'll come back to some of the logic of it again in just a minute. So let's say we have a 3-period time horizon, or a 1.5 year time horizon. So today, this is 6 months, this is 1 year, this is a year and a half, or time period 1, 2, 3, however you want to look at it. Okay, so option A, we can invest for the entire year and a half at 3%. Right, if we do that, we'll have 1.03 to the third power. That'll be the amount of money we walk away with. If we choose to do option B, we can invest for 1 year at 2.5%. Oh, I didn't tell you what we were looking for. I need to tell you that first, right? I'm looking for 1F2, which is a 1 period forward rate that begins in period 2. So if I'm looking for 1F2, I know this. My options are B, invest at 3% for the entire 3 periods, or A, invest at 3% for the entire 3 periods, or B, invest for a year or 2 periods at 2.5, and then invest at some unknown rate sometime in the future. So this would be 1.025 squared times 1 plus 1F2 to the first. I solve for this. 1F2 is equal to 4.007%. Okay, so this is what makes me indifferent. However, what if you knew, well, if somebody came to you, Jim Cramer in a vision comes to you and says, you know what, the spot rate a year from now, the 6-month spot rate a year from now is going to be 3.9%. Which one of these options would you choose? Well, you could either invest at 2.5% for 2 periods and then 3.9% for 1 period, or you could invest at 3% for 3 periods. This one would be larger, so you would choose option A. Alright, so what does this tell us about the market? We start assuming markets are efficient. So if everybody has the same belief, if everybody believes that a year from now the 6-month spot rate will be 3.9%, everyone will choose option A, right? If everybody chooses option A, what happens? People start buying this bond, the price of the bond goes up, the yield goes down. All right, that's important. The price of the bond will go up because people start to buy it. The yield to maturity, or the spot rate in this case, which is the same thing. Well, in this particular case, it's the same thing. The yield will go down. So this is no longer 3%, this is something less than that, and it will continue to go down to where this isn't greater, this is now equal to. If that wasn't the case, as long as this is larger, people will continue to do this and continue to drive the price up and drive the yield down. At the same time, what are they doing? They're selling, they don't want this, so they're selling this bond, right? If you happen to have owned the 1-year bond, now you're selling it, so the price here is going to go down and make the yield go up. So this number is getting larger, this number is getting smaller. And the theory is, this is the expectations theory of the yield curve, the theory is that the best prediction of what the future spot rate is going to be is the forward rate. Whatever makes this equation equal, in this case 4%, is the best prediction of what that spot rate is going to be. If it wasn't, people would change as I just described. Let me give you one more example. Work through this one more time, and we will say, let's look for 2F1, which is a 2-period forward rate beginning in period 1. So what will that look like? I'm just going to do it with periods instead of the months here. Whichever way you want to do it is fine. Option A, I know it's a 3-period time horizon, right, because 2 plus 1 is 3. So option A would would be to invest at 3%. I'm going to do this in red. Option A would be to invest at 3% for the entire 3 periods. If you did that, you would receive 1.03 to the third. The other option would be, I want a 2-period forward rate that begins in period 1, so I'm looking for this. So I can invest for 6 months at 2%. So I'm looking for the 1-year spot rate 6 months from now, right? The 1-year spot rate 6 months from now. So this will equal to 1.02 to the first, because I just invest here for 1 period, times 1 plus this unknown forward rate. I'm investing that for 2 periods, so that's squared. Alright, so when I do the math here, 2F1 is equal to 3.504%. Alright, so let's go through this example kind of one more time. If you knew that the future spot rate was going to be 3.75%, which option would you choose? You would choose option B, because 1.03 cubed would be option A. This option, this would be greater, right? As long as this is greater, you would prefer it. The markets we're assuming are efficient, so everybody believes that this spot rate is going to be 3.75%. If that's the case, what does everybody do? They all sell this, right? When you sell this, the price goes down and the yield goes up. So this number starts to get bigger. It goes from 3 to 3.1%, 3.2%. I mean, I don't know the exact numbers off the top of my head, wherever it happens to be. And people are all buying option B, so the price here is going up, making this yield go down. So it goes from 2 to 1.9, 1.8, and it's going to balance out at some point. So what we've seen here, people believe this is 3.504%. They believe this will be the spot rate, the 1-year spot rate 6 months from now. If they believed anything else, they would either buy more of this and sell more of that, or do the reverse. So this is our best estimate that the market's giving us for what the future spot rates are going to be. Okay, so just let me give you just a little, tie some of this stuff together quickly here. What you've done, we found earlier, we were able to find the spot rates, right? You should be able to find the spot rates. Given those spot rates, step 2, you find the forward rates. And those forward rates, under the expectation theory, so the expectations theory, the forward rates are predictions, the best predictions we have of the spot rates. There is also liquidity preference theory. We'll talk a little bit about that the next class. So what I'll do is I will, this will be the last video for the day. Sometime tomorrow I'll give you some problems to work so you can go through the spreadsheets, make sure you understand them. And then Tuesday we'll continue with what the syllabus says, but first we'll review all this material. I know the videos, you can't ask questions. It's not the best way to do it. I may have made misstatements or made mistakes in this. So we'll start class reviewing any questions you have and the problems, and then we'll go on to what's in the syllabus.